Hello and welcome to the Design Make Play show. My name is Sarah and I'm an illustrator and designer at DesignMakePlay, and today we're going to talk about layouts and grids and how we can see them in everyday life and even right now.
Sarah, you're not in the middle.
Oh, that wasn't meant to happen.
And action!
Hello and welcome to the Design Make Play show. My name is Sarah and I'm an illustrator and designer at DesignMakePlay, and today we're going to talk about layouts and grids. So let's get started. So what are layouts and grids? Layouts and grids are used to help us organize information in an effective way, and we can see layouts and grids in everyday life and also graphic design. So in my presentation, I'm going to show you guys some examples of where we can see this in everyday life, as well as some of the good and bad design examples of layouts and grids. So to begin with, everyday examples. We can see layouts and grids in the newspaper. We can also see it in blueprints and architecture designs. We can also see it in transportation when we're driving around in our cars. Of course, this is from above because otherwise we wouldn't know that we're driving on a grid system, but that's what that looks like from above. And then we also have grids and layouts in our home decorating, and that helps us organize, our books and things that we own into a shelf unit. And then we also see this in cooking shows, and chefs use grids and layouts in order to organize all the ingredients and see what they need to use for a recipe. And we also see this in circuits in machinery. And this example, I think, almost looks like a miniature city, as you can see with these little cars and roads. So now I'm going to show you guys some examples in graphic design. But these are the grids that we can kind of use as a basis to get going with our designs, because certain grids and layouts work better for different purposes. So to begin with, we have manuscript grid, which is where everything is center aligned. And I've used this one a couple times. It's pretty good. And then we also have column grid, where everything is separated into columns. So you could have 2 columns, 3 columns, 6, as many as you want. And then we have modular grids, which are a bunch of little squares. I would say this one's not as popular, but some people use it. And then we have baseline grids, which is kind of the same idea with a bunch of little squares, but there is a gutter line in between all the squares, which is pretty much just a spacing to make sure that the text doesn't hit each other. And now I'm going to show you some good examples of how some grids and layouts can work. So these are some examples that are working pretty well, I would say. And usually you just want to have again, the information organized into sections and make it look like it was intended and obvious. But you can also have some nice negative space in your layout design, which is shown in this one on the left. And then on the right here, this is kind of unconventional, but you can even have, typography and information on the sides of your design. Even though it may seem like it's harder to read information from the side, sometimes it actually makes the viewer want to read it more because you're trying to figure out what it says. And then this one is kind of like a manuscript example on the left here, where everything is center aligned. And then on the right, we have a menu layout design. And of course, we see menus all the time when we're out at restaurants and such. And that is very necessary to make sure that, the information is organized so we know what we're gonna order. And I would say this one's probably a 3 to 4 column grid. And here are some bad design examples. So the one on the left, as you can see, there's so much going on. The text is just all over the place, and it doesn't really look like they used a layout or a grid, and that's kind of what you want to know. If you can see that there is one that the graphic designer used, that's a good thing. And on the right, again, the information is just scattered all around, and we don't really know where our eye should focus on. And that's the intention of, again, layouts and grids, is that the information is separated kind of into categories so we know where to look first. And again, this is just 2 more examples that just aren't working, and the layouts are kind of all over the place. Again, with the typography is not working in here as well. So now we're going to talk about some tips and tricks, and I'm going to show you guys a little example that I have. So we can organize by hierarchy, color, and topics. So let's try it out. So I'm going to open up my program here. And so this is an InDesign, and this is a program that's heavily used for creating layouts and grids. And it's mainly for moving around imagery and moving around text. So in my example here, what I'm gonna do is just turn off my layer with the photo, and you guys can see that behind here is actually a grid system that I created. So I can go up into my layout and I can select margins and columns, and that's where you have control over making whatever kind of grid system you want to create. So I have 2 columns here, and this has helped me organize where my information is going to go, and I can also put images wherever I want as well. So of course you don't actually see the grid once you create your design, but it's there just as a skeleton so you know what you're designing and where to put the information. So again, when I turn this on and I can switch this on, then you can see that the information, I'd say it's working pretty well because I've put up my information up here in the left corner, so you're gonna read that first. And then I just have a little information at the bottom right, but there's some nice space where your eye can breathe. And that's just a few tips and tricks on how we can make good graphic design using layouts and grids. So ultimately, what I hope you guys took away from today is that layouts and grids can really benefit our designs by helping us know where we can place our images and type, and it's really the fundamental and the skeleton of how we can organize our information effectively. So I hope you guys learned something new, and you guys can try this out at home at your leisure. So I will see you guys very soon.